In the vast expanse of human history, power often appears as a fixed star, a brilliant and unmoving point of light in the social firmament. We look at the wealthy and the powerful, the elites who command empires and economies, and we might assume their position is permanent, their influence eternal. Yet, like the celestial bodies that wheel across the cosmos, these constellations of power are not static. They are subject to fundamental forces, to cycles of birth, growth, and eventual decay. Their brilliance can dim, and their gravitational pull can weaken until they collapse under their own weight or are torn apart by external energies. This is not an accident of history. It is a recurring pattern, a predictable outcome governed by the laws of social dynamics. The story of elite decline is written across the ages, a repeating cosmic ballet. Consider the mighty Roman Empire. Its patrician families held immense power for centuries, their names synonymous with wealth and authority. But where are they now? Their influence scattered like cosmic dust. Think of the French aristocracy before the Revolution, glittering in their palaces, seemingly untouchable. Their world was shattered in a historical blink. Even in more recent times, the great industrial dynasties of America, families whose fortunes once seemed as vast as galaxies, have seen their power wane. History teaches us a profound lesson. Holding on to power is one of the universe's great challenges, and no elite group has ever managed it forever. The reasons for this inevitable decline are not mysterious. They are observable phenomena. They are rooted in mathematics, in psychology, and in the simple, powerful forces of human nature. Sometimes the seeds of destruction are sown within the elite group itself through competition and internal strife. Other times the pressure builds from below as the vast majority of people, the unseen matter of society, begin to push back against an imbalanced system. The universe, in its grand design, abhors a vacuum, but it also resists extreme concentrations of energy and mass. In society, extreme concentrations of wealth and power create instabilities that, sooner or later, must be resolved. Understanding this cycle is not about predicting the future with absolute certainty. It is about recognizing the patterns that have shaped our past and continue to shape our present. Just as astronomers study the life cycles of stars to understand the cosmos, we can study the life cycles of power to understand our own world. From the palaces of ancient emperors to the boardrooms of modern corporations, the principles remain the same. The universe of human society is in constant motion, and the brightest stars of one era are destined to become the black holes or faint nebulae of the next. The story of elites is a story of temporary brilliance against the backdrop of cosmic time. One of the most powerful forces that unravels elite rule comes from within. Imagine a star growing so large that its core can no longer support its own mass. This is what happens with elite overproduction. When a ruling family or class becomes too large, there are suddenly too many ambitious children and relatives vying for a limited number of powerful positions. In ancient Rome, the patrician families grew over generations, leading to intense and often bloody rivalries. Brothers turned against brothers, and cousins conspired against cousins, all competing for the same slice of imperial power. This infighting weakens the entire elite structure from the inside, distracting them from external threats and making them vulnerable to collapse. This internal competition creates a class of disgruntled, would-be elites. These are individuals who were born with the expectation of power, but find the doors closed to them. They are educated, ambitious, and most importantly, frustrated. Often these are the very people who end up leading rebellions against their own class. They understand the system's weaknesses because they are a part of it. They possess the resources and the know-how to challenge the established order. The constant struggle for position and influence turns the ruling class into a snake eating its own tail, consuming its strength and unity until there is nothing left to hold it together. At the same time, another immense pressure builds from the outside. As the rich get richer, the gap between the elites and the common people can grow into a vast, unbridgeable chasm. This is the story of the French Revolution. The French aristocracy lived in unimaginable luxury, seemingly oblivious to the suffering of the masses who starved in the streets of Paris. This extreme inequality bred a powerful and explosive form of resentment. When people feel that the system is fundamentally unfair, that their labor only serves to enrich a tiny, disconnected few, their patience eventually runs out. This social anger becomes a powerful fuel, capable of powering a revolution that can topple even the most entrenched regimes. The combination of these two forces, internal decay and external pressure, is incredibly potent. While the elites are busy fighting amongst themselves for scraps of power, the population below is organizing, their anger reaching a boiling point. The elites, blinded by their internal squabbles and their disconnect from reality, often fail to see the tidal wave of popular fury until it is too late. The French monarchy, for instance, continued its lavish spending and political games even as the foundations of its power were crumbling. This fatal combination ensures that when the revolution comes, the ruling class is too divided and too weak to mount an effective defense, and its world is swept away. Survival, whether for a species or a social class, depends on the ability to adapt. Elites who become too comfortable, too set in their ways, are like dinosaurs watching a comet streak across the sky, unaware of the impending doom. They often build institutions and traditions that served them well in the past, but they become rigid and unable to respond to new challenges. The world is always changing. New technologies emerge, economies shift, and new ideas capture the public imagination. An elite class that clings to old methods and dismisses new threats is writing its own obituary. Their failure to innovate leaves them brittle, ready to shatter at the first sign of real pressure. Massive, unexpected crises are the cosmic events that can shatter these brittle structures overnight. Think of a great famine, a devastating plague, or a catastrophic war. These events shake society to its very core and can destroy the old order completely. A long and costly war can bankrupt a state, draining the treasury and eroding the wealth of the ruling families who financed it. A famine can expose the incompetence of the rulers, proving to the populace that their leaders are incapable of providing the most basic security. These crises act as great filters, wiping away systems that are not resilient enough to withstand the shock and opening the door for new leaders and new forms of power to emerge. Sometimes the force that topples an elite group comes not from within or from below, but from the outside. Throughout history, powerful empires have been brought down by external invaders or rival powers. The Western Roman Empire, already weakened by internal decay and economic troubles, finally collapsed under the pressure of invasions from Germanic tribes. These external groups saw a rich and powerful society that had grown complacent and weak, and they seized the opportunity. An elite class focused on its own luxury and internal politics is often a poor defender against a determined and hungry external foe that has nothing to lose and everything to gain. The rise of new rivals can be just as disruptive as a direct invasion. This can happen economically, as new centers of trade and industry emerge to challenge the old ones. The old landed aristocracy of Europe, whose wealth was based on agriculture, found their power diminishing with the rise of the Industrial Revolution. A new class of merchants, inventors, and factory owners emerged, creating wealth in new ways that the old elites did not understand and could not control. This new group eventually displaced the old one, proving that in the dynamic universe of human society, no one's position at the top is guaranteed when a new, more energetic star begins to shine brighter. The accumulation of a great fortune is a monumental task, often requiring immense ambition, discipline, and ingenuity. Maintaining that fortune across generations, however, is a different kind of challenge altogether, and one that most families ultimately fail. The first generation builds the empire, driven by a hunger to succeed, but the second and third generations are born into a world of comfort and privilege. They may lack the drive and the grit of their ancestors. The old saying, "from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations," captures a fundamental truth. Wealth can be squandered through lavish spending, poor investments, and a simple lack of financial discipline, causing a great dynasty to crumble from within. Moreover, the skills required to build a fortune are not always the same as those needed to preserve it. An aggressive risk-taker might create a vast business empire, but their heirs might need to be cautious custodians, skilled at management and preservation. These skills are not always passed down. Bad decisions can accumulate over time, with each successive generation making mistakes that chip away at the family's wealth and influence. A single disastrous business venture or a poorly managed inheritance can undo a century of hard work. We see this with once famous American families like the Vanderbilts, who built a colossal fortune in shipping and railroads only to see it evaporate over a few generations of waste and mismanagement. Sometimes, the end of elite dominance comes not through collapse or revolution, but through deliberate, peaceful change. Societies can evolve to believe that extreme concentrations of power are unhealthy. This leads to political and social reforms designed to distribute power more evenly. The introduction of progressive income taxes, inheritance taxes, and antitrust laws in the United States during the 20th century were all measures aimed at preventing the formation of a permanent aristocracy. These reforms act as a kind of regulatory force, ensuring that wealth and power are recirculated throughout society rather than being hoarded by a few families indefinitely. They are the peaceful equivalent of a revolution. In the grand cosmic scheme of human affairs, these patterns repeat with an almost planetary regularity. Elites rise, shine brightly for a time, and then, inevitably, their light fades. Whether it is due to internal rot, popular revolt, a failure to adapt, external shocks, generational decay, or deliberate reform, the forces aligned against permanent power are immense and unrelenting. History is a graveyard of fallen elites and forgotten dynasties. This tells us something profound about the nature of power itself. It is not a possession to be owned forever, but a temporary force to be wielded with caution. For in the endless story of the cosmos and of humanity, nothing is permanent. The only constant is change itself.